Geno Perez Adventures. I'm still Geno, still my adventures. And Bill had a really good idea, and I concur. And we're talking about this morning how you can retire early. That's what I said. You don't have to wait until you're 65 years old. You can retire at 55, 47, 35, whatever age you want to retire at. And Bill's got a plan. It's a pretty good plan too. So, Bill, let's hear what you got to say. Good morning.
Well, good morning, Geno. I got to thinking this week about people in the United States that are sitting on some decent home equity. I'm sure there's a lot of them that are, maybe mid-50s. They've been going to the grind 25, 30 years. They're kind of getting tired of it, but they're aimed at 65. But really, 65 is just an arbitrary number, that started, I guess, many, many years ago. Probably no real reason to look at 65, but people decided 65 was the retirement age, and it's kind of a traditional number.
Well, you know why, Bill? Do you know why? Because the federal government figured we'd all be dead by 65.
Well,
Cool
yeah,
them,
probably.
huh?
Yeah, and they get to keep the pension contributions.
There you go.
I looked at some term deposit rates right now. I looked at Goldman Sachs and also Capital One. There's Amex, there's Wells Fargo, and some others, but I just use these two. And right now, a 1-year term deposit is paying 3.25% at both places. So if you take someone with 250,000 equity, I don't think that's a lot of equity. There's some people have less, but there's others that have a heck of a lot more too. With 250,000 and you put it into a 12-month CD, your income is almost $700 a month. Exactly.
Yeah, when you're talking about, you're not talking about shifting your money to Colombia either. You're talking about keeping your money either in Canada or in the United States, wherever you're comfortable keeping your money.
That's right.
Correct? Okay.
That's right. And I haven't taken into consideration any tax you might have payable or anything else. I'm just looking at the raw numbers. I understand coming here is a big move. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't see the future, as most of them can't. But anything I read now, there's a lot of doom and gloom coming down. I read an article this week about home prices in the United States possibly dropping 15% next year. I read a couple of other articles about the stagflation, and some people are predicting it's going to be worse than 2008. There's going to be a lot of places go bankrupt and people losing their homes. Now, for every economist that predicts that, there's one or two or three or four others that say, no, you're crazy. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, but what happened in 2008, Bill, and in 2008 is there wasn't anybody saying that it was going to decrease. Everybody was on the rocket. Go, it's going to be higher. It's going to be higher. It's going to be higher.
Yep.
I was a realtor, and I actually saw some homes drop 80% in value. 80%. Right. They're back now, and they came screaming back. But it took a lot of people out. Out. My question. I got a question for you. The numbers work really well. I mean, because you can take the money that you get in equity from your home and live quite comfortably here on that amount of money. There's another side of that I don't think we're looking at. We have an inflation rate of about 10% here in Colombia. So if you bought something here today, in 10 years it's going to be worth twice as much.
Mm-hmm.
Relatively speaking, inflationary dollars, and I don't really know how that works. But what I do know is that people will go, oh, well, those are inflated dollars. Yeah, but that's what everybody's playing with at the time. So I don't know where to go with that. But I think you could either stash it like you're talking about, or you could buy something down here. But go ahead. I don't mean to interrupt you.
Well, buying something down here, though, if you have no other source of income, isn't going to give you the money to live. And Geno, you're right about the inflation. Inflation here has gone 10%, but the peso now this year has depreciated 14%.
Yeah.
So at some point in the future, if you want to convert back to American dollars, you're going to need more pesos to buy those same dollars back. So even though on the capital gains side you might have doubled, you may be only picking up 40 or 50% because you got to use more pesos to buy the same dollar that you sold for less 10 years before.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
But you and I've talked often about, like, I'm living for just over 600. Now that's all the basics in a big townhouse, 4-bedroom, 4-bath, and so on. If I roll in my car, which is paid for, but if I roll in my insurances and amortize them monthly, my annual inspection, my oil change, and I don't drive a lot. Gas, by the way, right now with the peso has just ticked under $2 a gallon. It's $1.98 a gallon here. I'm in for less than $800 a month. Now, somebody who has 250, the rates are going to go higher. There's no question about that. But if somebody locked in at 4% for a year on 250, they're going to make an interest $833 a month. And I live like a king on less than 800. So when you put it into perspective, I know it's difficult to cut the ties with your friends and your family and everything else, but a lot of people, myself included, have sacrificed some things in our lives to make things better for our children and our grandchildren. And maybe for some people that are older now, it's time to get selfish. You're only here once.
I concur. And the rest of the story is, this is what I don't understand, Bill. A lot of the people the reason I started this channel was for the old guys like me that are single, old, by themselves, and starving to death. Basically, I really don't know how. If I was in the United States, I would have to have a full-time job right now at 71 years old. Well, I don't have. The only job I have here in Colombia is making mama happy and my YouTube channel. That's what I do. And it's not a big stress. And I live, just like you said, I live like a king.
Yeah.
And when I was 54 and retired the first time, if I would have known about Colombia, I would still have a hell of a lot more money than I do today. And it would have been really wonderful. So I don't know how to get over to these. I don't know where to find our audience. I don't know where to find them. I know there's people that are 40, 50, 60 years old that are struggling and hate what they're doing, and they're upside down and they're totally stressed out and they have no freaking money. And I also know if you took the money that they have in equity or whatever and got some income out of it, you can live here quite well.
Well,
so how do you convince them of that?
Geno,
How do you convince them of that, Bill?
I don't know. I think one of the problems, Geno, with your channel, and I think it's the only one, is that the numbers are hard to believe, but the numbers are truthful. And I know that, like, we had one comment today that a fella with a family of 4, it's costing him $6,000 a month to live with a family of 4.
$6,000, and that's the same guy that said it was $50 a day to feed him.
Yeah, I live here for 10 months for $6,000.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
I mean, he has a family and the whole thing. But if you start with 250, which I don't think is a lot of money, and even if you drew it down 50,000 until you retired, at 4% on 200, you're getting 8,000 a year plus your Social Security. You're pulling in $2,000 a month. living here and having an income of $2,000 a month, you can travel the world.
Exactly.
So I think some people should look at that. They'll have to work out the numbers for themselves.
Well, yeah, of course, and you know, just like we looked at yesterday, there's some of these banks that are still paying 0.9% interest.
They
But
are.
then
Wells
there's some others.
Fargo.
There's some others also that are paying higher, like 5 or 6%, aren't they?
Yeah.
Well,
there's
mortgages
some,
are at 7%, so somebody's making 7%.
Well, yeah, and some of the credit unions are. I think I saw are 4.25, but they're not accessible to most of the people. There might be credit unions in every town in the United States is paying 4%. But I just took the heavy hitters, and Goldman Sachs, Amex, and Capital One were the first three that turned up. Wells Fargo was in there, but like you say, Wells Fargo is paying 0.1%. Now, you could also ladder these deposits. I mean, you could take 20 out in cash just to have it on hand, put 225 or 200 maybe into a 1 year, and put 30,000 into one that you roll over every 60 days or so. Because the problem with the 1 year is you don't get your interest income until the deposit comes due in a year. Now, some will pay monthly, but you'll take a little bit of a discount usually on the interest rate. But I think it's maybe some people have looked at this. I'd like to call it Bill's Freedom 55. El Terrifico, who lives in Canada, makes comments once in a while on your videos. He'd know that the Freedom 55 was a big life insurance company in Canada, that they still are. And they advertised that very, very heavily for a lot of years, that if you started at 25 with them and followed their plan, you could retire at 55. And I just think it's doable for a lot of people. I think if people have the ability to cut the ties, it's a beautiful life.
Well, good stuff, Bill. Good stuff. Yeah, let's keep those cards and letters coming. So, well, we're at about our time here. So this is the first day of the rest of your life, Bill. And if nothing changes, nothing changes. You're still going to have a wet bed if you don't move. So that being said, hit the like, hit the subscribe. If you've stayed this long, we love you. Check out the description. We'll have more of these to come. Bill's Freedom 55. I may steal that, but who knows?
Likely.
God bless. You're slipping.
We'll see you on the flip side.
God bless.